The next film falls very much into the entertainment category, both for the viewers and the production team. Pat and John had a particularly soft spot for the Scottish region lines that threaded the Highland Mountains, and made a visit there virtually an annual event for the series. In May 1959 they visited the West Highland extension to Mallaig, and were then able to arrange a filming special over the main part of the West Highland Main Line from Glasgow Queen Street to Fort William, using a pair of North British Class D34 Glen 440s, which were then being rapidly withdrawn as dieselisation of the Highlands had been given a high priority. Here the train pulls into Crianlarich, later to become a full-time junction when the rival LMS Callander and Oban line was closed from here to Stirling. As can be seen, the usual film technique of using several runs to create a longer feature was used, the filming taking place over several days. As the train leaves Crianlarich, Pat can just be glimpsed leaning out of the cab as he filmed from the footplate and waved to John. The engines were specially rostered on the first down train of the day, the 5:45 from Queen Street, which conveyed the sleeping cars for Fort William. The first official train boasted a southern luggage van at the front, and both cameramen were able to get plenty of line-side footage of this train. All stations were stops on this line, and Bridge of Orkney enabled Pat to change engines. The camera was held steady by a bracket attached to the cab's side sheet, which was as effective as a tripod was for line-side shots. Two line-side views were possible of the first train on the climb away from Bridge of Orkney past the distance signal. After Bridge of Orkney, the line climbs up into the mountains, away from any roads, and passes over Rannoch Moor, so all the filming here was done from the train. Pat was now on the second locomotive, Glen Falloch. From the back of the train, it can be seen that some filming was done on a third train, which is seen approaching Rannoch Station at the top of the famous moor. Rannoch can actually be reached by road, but only from the east, which would not have been especially practical. A stop here gave Pat a chance to stretch his legs and get another view at the lead engine, Glen Loy, before changing back to this engine once again to film the top of the line beyond here. The snow shed just past the viaduct is one of the best known features of this much-loved railway. By driving around and through Fort William and then out to the east through Roy Bridge, it was possible to meet the train as it ran downhill after Loch Treat past the Tulloch distance signal. No more line-side shots were recorded until Fort William, Pat remaining in the cab for the rest of the journey. At this time, the original Fort William station was still in use, situated a little closer to the heart of the town than its later counterpart. It had 3 platform faces and was built right on the water's edge of Loch Linney. The main arrival platform continued beyond the station to form a quayside line for the fish traffic, but it was in use as a carriage siding when the footplate trip arrived. At the end of the trip, the engines were serviced and turned on Fort William's shed, preparatory to working back in the afternoon to Glasgow. The 2 engines had relatively short lives left ahead of them. Glen Falloch, despite having the later BR tender emblem, indicating a more recent overhaul, would only have a few more months in service, being withdrawn in March 1960. Here she's turned on the Fort William turntable, which would later be sold and re-erected on the Severn Valley Railway at Kidderminster. Glen Loy was luckier. and was to prove to be one of the last of the class in active service, being retired in November 1961. Happily, it may one day be possible to recreate this scene, as a new turntable is to be installed at Fort William Shed, and one of the Glens is preserved. This would be Glen Douglas, which was about to be returned to its North British livery when this trip was run. In August 1959, Cowlairs Works would outshop her in her original form, and she would become one of the famous 4 Scottish pre-grouping engines of that era that continued to work on special trains. Officially withdrawn in December 1962, she joined them in the new Glasgow Museum of Transport that was built around them. Happily, in the 1990s, she was removed from there and taken to Bowness, where she is to be restored to steam, and so a Glen may one day round these curves once again.